from. With over 30 years in the business, Leah's got your automotive needs covered. Shop hassle-free environments in our state-of-the-art facilities and take advantage of low lease payments, zero down leases, and financing as low as 0.9%. Open 7 days a week for your convenience and online all the time at leahcars.com.
Leah.
Welcome back to Capitol Oak TV's The Inside Track. I'm Jean Wood, and we are joined now by our second special guest of the morning. Welcome, former rider Richie Migliore. Good morning, Rich. Good to have you.
Thanks. Great to be here. Saratoga's the only place to be in August, right?
Absolutely, and it's finally August, too. It seems like we've been here for weeks, and finally it's August 1st. It is the August place to be now.
Well, yeah, it went from the August place to be to the summer place to be, and hopefully maybe it'll be the spring and summer place to be someday.
Well, we're gonna have jumpers up here in mid-September, so it'll be the almost autumn place to be as well when we get to that point. Rich, obviously, familiar face on the racetrack, coming over here, showing us all up, showing up in shirt, tie, and jacket, and trying to make us all look bad. It's it's like being on with Anthony this morning. But
I think his sense of style is a little sharper than mine.
Looking pretty sharp, Rich. But tell us a little bit now. You're all dolled up. So you've been doing your own broadcast over here. Tell us a little bit about the things you got going on.
Yeah, well, we did the National Racing Report this morning. Jason Blewett, Andy Serling, and myself every Wednesday morning. They also do the Racing Report on Saturdays. That's without me, but the Wednesday recap show I'm involved in, and it's great. I mean, I'm very involved. Naira has me doing a lot of different TV stuff as well as HR TV, and I'm very appreciative of these opportunities.
Well, every time I see you, you're on the move someplace. You've got a microphone. In many cases, you've got a couple of microphones in your hand, and doing a lot on the broadcast side. Have you enjoyed that transition?
It's great. I mean, nothing's ever going to replace riding, and I understand that, but I'm very appreciative again of being able to stay within the industry and do stuff that I like and be around the people that I like, and I love racing. I love horses. And it gives me an opportunity to stay current with things, not just for Naira like at Saratoga, but for HRTV when I travel for the Triple Crown and the Breeders' Cup. So it's, not every rider gets these opportunities. So I am, acutely aware of that. And, as much as I miss riding, it had to end sometime.
Now, you're involved with Naira now with their new ownership program. I've seen you in the paddock a lot here before the races at Saratoga. Tell us a little bit about that. Yeah,
we've had 7 new owners luncheons so far. And they've been terrific. We've really gotten a great response. They all, if they don't sell out, they're very close to sell out. The one in Saratoga will sell out. It's August 29th, and last year we had 20 on the also eligible list. So, if anybody's interested, actually the press release will be out this week about the next new owners luncheon. And we've gotten a lot of people that have gotten involved. Probably roughly about 10% of the people that have attended the seminars have gotten involved in ownership. And everybody on the racetrack's been so helpful. Owners, trainers, syndicate people have embraced it and come out and really helped speaking and being a part of the day.
Why is it so important, do you feel, to get new owners involved in the sport?
Well, they're the lifeblood of the industry. Without new owners, we don't have horses to race, and therefore jockeys don't have horses to ride, trainers don't have horses to train. And right now in New York, with the size of the purses, it's probably the one time in the history of the game that somebody could have a reasonable expectation to maybe at least break even and maybe make a little money at it, because the purses are just at an all-time high.
When you meet with these prospective owners, what are some of the things besides the financial aspect that you stress on why they should get involved?
Well, if you love the game, if you're passionate about the game and you want to know what it's like to be in the paddock looking out as opposed to outside the paddock looking in, and the mornings up here, you bring people to the barn here, and it's enchanting. I mean, if you don't like mornings in Saratoga watching horses train, well, then it's probably not for you. But the fact that we have this amazing setting and the best horses, the best trainers, the best jockeys, and the best fans in the world right here in Saratoga, there's no better time to introduce people to it.
A couple of days ago, we had Tom Gallo on the program, and of course, if you're out here in the morning, you see Tom Gallo all the time, and he says it best. Who needs advertising? We've got this. He's always out, bringing people out, whether they're already part of his partnership, Parting Glass Racing, or if they're potential clients. What's not to like? You can sell people pretty easily standing here, looking out, leaning on the rail at Clare Court.
Yeah, I mean, it is just the best venue to sell it. And I have to say, Tom Gallo was extremely instrumental in getting the new owners luncheons off the ground. He was, he and I worked closely together, I should say, to get it off the ground. And it couldn't have gotten off as well without him. So a big thank you to Tom for all his help to get it underway.
And Richard, let's talk a little bit about your career. It ended back in 2010, June of 2010. You retired. You won almost 4,500 races in your career, over $160 million career earnings. Your list of accomplishments is great. You won the Eclipse Award for Top Apprentice Jockey when you were just 17 years old a couple years ago. When you look back, what are some of the most cherished memories of your career?
Honestly, all of it, and just being able to come here as a kid. I started coming to Saratoga when I was 14 years old, galloping horses, and to be a part of this. And the one thing I'm very proud of all my wins, over 3,900 were here on the NYRA circuit, and this is the major leagues. And if you go back to 1976, my career really started in '81 and ended in April of 2010. No rider won more races on the New York circuit than I did. Angel Cordero would be second in that time frame, and he had 600 less wins than I did. And so 76 to current day, to this very moment, no riders won more races on the NYRA circuit than I did. And I'm very proud of that because none of my statistics were padded.
Yeah. And obviously that's a stat that it's hard to beat. It's certainly not one you can really argue with. And I think it's fair to say that as a New York institution, a lot of the mainstay barns in New York were, they always knew they could count on Rich Migliore to be there to ride their horse.
And I won't stand here and try to say I was the best rider. There was certainly so much talent here, but I really felt like I made the most of my God-given abilities, and my work ethic was second to none. And even more than riding races, I miss the ability to come out and get on horses in the morning. That's sometimes when I have the biggest problem. I watch horses gallop by, and I'm not allowed to do that any longer. And that's, I think, the biggest void of not being able to just get on horses in the mornings.
Yeah, and I have a 6-week feeling of empathy for you every summer because I'm up here every day, almost every day, watching horses that I'm not allowed to ride. And in the meantime, my horse is standing in a barn saying, "Where'd she go?" But
right.
It's something, and people that ride understand that it's something that you really miss, whether it's a temporary situation or, unfortunately, in your case, where for medical reasons, because of the injury that you sustained that eventually forced your retirement, that you just can't do it anymore. It's too much of a risk.
But, with that being said, and I don't want to run the risk of sounding like woe's me or anything, because there's a lot of guys that are in worse circumstances, and the fact that I can get up and walk around here and again be a part of this is huge. It didn't have to end as well as it did. So.
You're a former jockey, and from your perspective, take a look at this Saratoga jockey colony. I think arguably the greatest jockey colony that's ever been assembled in the history of the sport for this season, this year. And you look at what Ramon Dominguez is doing right now. He's got these guys over a barrel. He's hitting at about 30-35%. How remarkable is it what he's doing against this competition?
Well, it's remarkable. You couldn't have anticipated anybody dominating the way he's dominating, and he's riding in another stratosphere. His confidence level is so high. He doesn't make any wrong moves. And Ramon, and I've ridden with all the great riders, and I will argue with you a little bit. In the 80s, I mean, when you had a room with Angel Cordero, George Velasquez, Eddie Maple, Jose Santos, Jerry Bailey.
Rich Migliore.
Yeah, but just one Hall of Famer after another. So, I mean, this is great, but I wish there was some way you can have like an all-star, past and
quantify them.
Current, but I mean, again, we're probably splitting hairs here because this is as talented a group as maybe ever assembled, as deep a group. But Ramon has this uncanny ability, more than anybody I've ever ridden with, to be in trouble and steady a horse along without taking anything away from that horse. And he's just the coolest guy I've ever seen under fire. It would be him and then Jerry Bailey second. I mean, they just can sit in there and wait for the spot, and then they always have horses take advantage of it. And it's been a pleasure to watch Ramon.
Yeah, I can always pick Ramon out. Obviously, Ramon, if people don't realize, is probably one of the taller guys in the jocks room. So when you see him on a horse, he kind of has a distinctive seat. But you can always pick him out because you watch for his horses. They seem to just, they never get their head in the air. They never look like they're fighting the bridle. He always seems to be able to put his hands down and just kind of get a horse to flow into a nice long gallop and kind of cruise like that for when he needs it. And I don't know what the skill is. Boy, I wish I had it. But, it's tremendous.
A great observation. And I think because Ramon learned to ride English and equitation first, he's kind of got that foundation, and he rides with a longer hold than anybody else you're going to see, and he's able to get a horse to carry himself properly, and it's really a beautiful thing to watch.
Yeah, it is amazing, and like we said, who would have thought? And we kind of handicapped the Jocks Colony before we came up here to Saratoga. When you're looking at some of these guys that are up here, and Ramon last year got off to a little bit of a sluggish start at this meet, and he's teaching riding lessons out there every day.
Well, Saratoga's not 24 days anymore. It's 40 days. It's not really
Long
a
way to
sprint
go.
anymore.
Yeah.
And and again, there's just so much talent. So even though we're heaping praise on Ramon, and rightfully so. I mean, how about Johnny Velasquez coming off the injury he did, and he's really finding his groove again, and underscores once again how tough these guys are. I mean, I've just, I marvel at them now that I'm not competing with them, and I kind of can sit back and see it a little clearer. Jockeys are second to none in my book as far as their toughness, their dedication, and their athletic prowess.
How do you feel like the jockeys and the jockey profession has changed since you started about 30 years ago?
Well, I think it's a lot easier now for guys to improve their game because you can go to the race replay center, you can go on your computer, and you can pull up tapes of you riding and see the things you need to work on. There's just so much information out there to be able to help you get better. Where, certainly at least to the mid-'80s, towards the late '80s, you didn't have that ability. It was more of a chore to be able to get race tapes and really just sit and pull one up after another and study things that you might want to improve on. And I think that's probably the biggest difference. And I think guys have gotten smarter how to take care of themselves nutrition-wise. And, you're not going to find a more dedicated group that, really embrace it as a profession.
We talked a little bit about your career and some of your accomplishments. Who are some of the horses that really stand out that you had the opportunity to ride? Horses like Artie Schiller, 4-Star Dave. One of my buddies, a huge fan of yours, he wanted me to ask you about Friends Lake, a horse. Talk about some of the great horses you had a chance to ride.
I was so blessed to, have those opportunities. And you talk about 4-Star Dave, the Sultan of Saratoga, and he's buried right here, right behind us here on Clare Court. And there's another horse buried there that I used to ride called More Jane. And as well as a phenomenon who I didn't ride, Angel Cordero rode. But coming up to Saratoga, being 4-Star Dave's jockey was a treat because everybody wanted to stop you in town and talk about 4-Star Dave.
Yeah.
And when he got taken down here one year in the midst of the streak of 8 years in a row winning a race in Saratoga.
Wonder they didn't burn the place to the ground.
I was just going to say that. It was amazing. I thought for sure, this place is coming down today, and it was a questionable DQ at best. Not the same stewards we have in the stand now, of course, so I'm not criticizing anybody current. But, that being said, it was terrific riding him. Thunder Rumble up here in Saratoga, another horse that was really, really thought of. Friends Lake, another New York bred. I won the Florida Derby with Chester and Mary Broman bred him. Just a wonderful horse. And I had ridden his mother, so that was special. And for John Kimball, who's somebody who was instrumental in my career, I can go on and on. I can name horses that nobody ever heard of that still have a real soft spot in me. Hidden Lake up here in the Gulf for Wando. Maybe the most memorable experience of my life, having a horse be empty at the quarter pole and still find a way to get it done. I still don't know where she found the courage, but a lot of good memories for sure.
You mentioned Thunder Rumble. He's in town. Thunder Rumble he's out in the retirement farm at the Bobby Frankel division of the Old Friends Farm. About, I want to say 10, 15 miles from here. Have you had a chance to go out and pay a visit to the farm?
Yeah, I have, and I implore anybody who loves this game and loves the horses to really support these charities that support the horses that have made our game what it is, as great as it is, because even though their racing careers might end, they still have long lives to live, and you've got to just embrace what everybody's trying to do out there and support these horses because they give us so much pleasure.
From your perspective, obviously this is an uncertain time. Life is an uncertain time, but in New York racing, the increased purses, certainly a boost to the racing industry. A little bit of uncertainty with your employer, Naira. We won't really get into that, but where do you see the future of New York racing going?
Well, I think if you look through the history of thoroughbred racing in New York, it's gone through, and not just New York, thoroughbred racing in general, it's gone through periods of time where things might look uncertain or bleak. But racing's timeless, and it's got a beauty to it and a pageantry to it that's always going to capture people's imagination, and it's always going to rebound. I honestly think you're hard-pressed to find a better management team that's in place right now than, at Naira. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think anybody knows. But I think the people that are in charge of making these changes need to look at the job they're doing here in Saratoga and the show they're putting on, because it's second to none.
We certainly have seen some great racing up here thus far this year, and I'm looking forward to a lot more. I know, Rich, you've been involved with some of the various charities. You mentioned, we talked a little bit about Old Friends. Any other things that you're involved with up here, the permanently disabled jockeys and a number of other organizations?
Well, I always support the Permanently Disabled Riders Fund. I'm not as involved right now because I just have so much on my plate, but I don't know the date of it, but they're going to have the karaoke to support that. That's always a good time. I mean, anybody, see these guys go out and sing, it's got to be good for at least a laugh. Also, something that NYRA has become extremely involved in is Take Two Thoroughbreds, which supports off-the-track thoroughbred events for shows. And then Career 2 Thoroughbreds, which they're supporting the Millbrook Horse Trials, which is the town I live in, which is going to be this weekend, and I'll be there Sunday representing NYRA. NYRA's really stepped up and try to give some incentives for people to take horses off the track, because unlike what people think, horses that come off the track make tremendous second career horses, either eventing or show horses or even riding horses, if you give them the opportunity to acclimate and the proper training to do so. And we've seen them time and time again be very good at the second career.
And I know I had the chance growing up. I learned on horses that came off the racetrack, sometimes good, sometimes bad, but they're a tremendous breed. And glad that the New York Racing Association has put together these organizations to really help raise that awareness, get the thoroughbred back into its position of superiority in the show horse world.
Well, and they are superior, and just we have to take care of our own, and they're certainly the horses put on the show.
They most certainly do. Richie, thank you so much for joining us. We
Thank
always
you.
appreciate having you
Thank
visit here on the Inside Track. That will wrap up this edition of Capital OTB's The Inside Track. We'd like to thank today's special guests, Rich Migliore and Dave Grenning from the Daily Racing Forum as well. And thank you for joining us here on Capital OTB's The Inside